Optimistic Bites show. This is Judy Alter, also known as the Optimistic BA, and today I have two guests. One is Filip Hendrickx from Belgium, and the other person is Ian Richards from the UK. And I'll just share a quick moment before we get started of how I met each of these people. I met Filip some years back at BBC, and then we reconnected during COVID and have come to be very good friends by attending a weekly get-together called the BA Cafe. And it's every Friday, and please feel free to join us. It's 5:30 a.m. Central Time for me, or it's 12:30 p.m. if you're in Europe. So it's a lot of fun. And so that's the story of me and Filip. And Ian, I had never really met. I haven't met Ian in person, but kind of the BA world is only so big. And so you kind of know of people. And it's kind of through Filip that I met Ian. And so today we are going to talk about what it means to be a business analyst, and in specific, the business analysis profession. So, not many people plan to be a BA. And believe me, we are all evangelists for helping children as they're growing up, thinking about the profession, because really, a lot of people are BAs and they don't even know it. But how did each of you become a business analyst?
So, for me, as for many other BAs, BA stands for by accident.
Yeah.
I didn't plan to become a BA. I have a technical background, so I studied engineering with a focus on information communications technology. And I've spent the first, 10 years of my career as software developer and software architect. But I always combine it with analysis-related work. I never just got instructions or specifications and started coding. I always did lots of thinking about the functionality myself. So I kind of done business analysis work all the way from the very beginning of my career. But after those 10 years mainly as a developer, I decided I wanted to switch sides and do the work before the development takes place. So I became a BA. I started being interested also in the processes around the technology and not just the technology itself. Did some work as a business architect as well. And I find it interesting to see how technology can enable better businesses, but also where the limitations are, and how you can often solve things by optimizing business processes without looking immediately at technology. So that's really where the BA can really shine, to leverage technology where it's best suited. But so by accident.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably, just as you said, how almost everybody comes by it. So Ian, what is your story?
So I think I'm that old that there was nobody called a business analyst when I started. I think I came from university, and I did a degree where I had an add-on to the degree where I became a lecturer in mathematics. But as I was lecturing, I was kind of thinking I was missing out on, or maybe my students were missing out on me having a bit more experience in industry. So I went out in industry. I had a keen interest in IT, and I was a programmer for a while for a company called British Steel. It's gone now. It's now Tata Steel. But I suddenly, I think they found out then that I could communicate with people. So it was in the days where business talked business and the IT talked IT, and we didn't produce anything as an industry. We didn't produce anything any good. So because I could communicate, I was an analyst programmer, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed both parts of it. Then I went for another job with a different company as an analyst programmer, and they said, "We don't need to program anymore. We want you to be an analyst or a systems analyst," I think it was then. I said, "Okay," and it progressed from there. My interest in talking more with the business and understanding the business landscape more than the technical landscape appealed a little bit more to me. And yeah, I've been a BA for years, a business architect, and I love it.
Great. I think most of us do, and that's why we do what we do. I would agree with that. So, and maybe you might have just answered this next question, but what do each of you find satisfying about being a BA?
So for me, there's two things. The first thing is as a coach, trainer, speaker, author, which I have focused on in the most recent years. I think it's great if I can inspire people, give people some new perspectives, new ways to look at things. There are some traditional BA techniques that are still very relevant, but if you give them a twist, they bring you new insights. So if I can do that, and if I can do it in a way that allows people to turn these ideas, this inspiration into action, that they can actually apply it the next day in their work, then say when I give a talk, I have succeeded. So that's really part of what gets me going, what gives me energy, is inspiring people, but helping them also turn it into action. When I do project work, which I don't do that often anymore, because I focus on the coaching and training and stuff. But when I do project work, I think it's interesting is to see that you deliver an actual result in a relatively short amount of time. So it's good to have this big vision. It's good to see how the big picture is, but get something done, get something out of the door in a relatively short amount of time, start making progress towards that big audacious goal. That gives me a lot of energy. If I can do that together with a team, I think that's great.
Yep. I would totally agree with that. Ian?
So I work very visually, and I know that I work with business unit managers that don't have time. They got their day job, they have very little time for transformation. And I take that weight away from them as a BA, and I create something visual, whether it's a model, a rich picture, or some architectural artifact. And I show it to them, and they say, do you know what? I've never seen my business like that before. I've had it very often. It just shows a different viewpoint, a different perspective, and then we have an intelligent conversation then about the business. So I don't see it as a big pressure on the BA to come up with the solutions. We present it in a different way to the business unit manager so that you can have that conversation and you can facilitate that change. I think a lot of BAs take the pressure upon themselves to know what the right solution is without really spending that time. So it's that kind of stakeholder management kind of thing for me. But I also enjoyed I've been a BA for a long time, as I said, and now I'm in the stage of giving back. And I enjoy working with younger BAs because I feel the pain sometimes, especially after COVID, where they work virtually and they go to meetings. Everybody's kind of calendar is busy, and maybe they're new and they go to a meeting with lots of jargon and they understand 50% of it. And then maybe they come back and they're afraid then over time to ask a stupid question because they've glossed over a few things and their knowledge is like a Swiss cheese with all holes in it. And then they feel anxious. They feel as if they, as I say, can't ask a stupid question. They withdraw. They have an unpleasant time. They disengage and they want to go and work for somebody else, get out of that situation. And I really like working with them and sharing my knowledge and experience to say, it's okay. Find that safe place to play it back and to, consolidate your knowledge so that you are as operationally effective as you can, as soon as you can, and not be in that horrible place. So I quite enjoy helping others, get over that hurdle.
That's the part of what I really enjoyed when I worked in corporate America was being a trainer, mentor, coach, that sort of thing. And it was always very satisfying to me to be sitting with someone who maybe was struggling with a concept. And all of a sudden, as I was sitting there, I watched the light bulb come on in their face. It was like, finally, and I was almost like the proud parent. And it was funny because for so many years, I really fought being the trainer, the mentor, I was always a leader, but, it's just kind of funny how you look back. And I am too in that area of my career where I'm giving back, and it's been really satisfying. And, that's just so important.
It's kind of, you take them a step back, didn't you? Because they maybe go into too much detail and they, and they're in a mess. They're in a mental kind of a bad way. And you say, right, take a step back. What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. We've all been there.
Exactly.
Let's focus. Let's go back to strategy, isn't it? I mean, one of the points Filip talks often about is understanding the strategy and the bigger picture here. What you're trying to achieve, and they're grateful for that, aren't they? You can see the relief coming back to their face.
Exactly, and it's one of the things that I've always found with newer BAs when you're really taking them from the beginning is that they need to understand, like, when sometimes I had one where that we went to their first review of their first document and they were just mortified when everybody had all these corrections, and I said, no, everybody's trying to give you advice so that we as a team look very good when that part of the project is presented to management, and so they then they're like, and they they always think, oh, I'm going to get fired if I make a mistake. Well, no, I would have been gone years ago. I mean, it just, stuff happens, and especially when you're doing a large amount of work, and so it is very interesting.
If there are too few corrections or points of feedback on a document or an analysis, then either you've taken too much time or the team is not open with feedback. So it's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. I had one document that was rather large one day that we were going through, and I looked up and I realized no one was paying attention to anything I said, and normally this one person would have good feedback and he had nothing for me that day. So it's like, they don't even know what I'm talking about, so it's one of those things.
I was in a review meeting once with a client, and it wasn't my requirements document, but it was back in the days when the requirements documents were pretty big.
Oh, yes.
We've moved away from that, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I remember this lady walked in, we were all sat down, she walked in with a document, she threw it across the table, she said, we pay a lot of money for you people, and this is the best that you can do. And where'd you go from there? It's like, oh no. Yeah. I was thinking, oh, I'm glad it wasn't my document, I was only there to give my opinion, but yeah.
I was working with a developer. We were building a Grails database, and I had just come back from 2 weeks of vacation. And the first day we had this meeting with, the stakeholders, and this one manager just got really upset about something with this database, and she said, well, this is just a piece of crap, and got up and walked out. I was like, oh. She just knows that, but I had to laugh because that was probably one of the best projects I ever worked on, and we went through we actually got them all in a room and went through the database, field by field. What do you want here? Do you want a drop down, a radio button? I mean, it was just, there was so very little that went, wrong with that. I have to laugh, so I don't know. It's just always amazing. What's your funny story, Philip, about?
You caught me off guard here. Funny story. That doesn't happen often. I think the most fun moments, if I can nudge the question a little bit, are the moments where you take time to celebrate stuff and where these things that have gone wrong pop up in the conversations and you can have a laugh afterwards.
Yes.
And as a consultant, I've done a lot of projects at different clients. And in a way, going away, closing a project is always a little bit of a sad moment, but it's also a fun moment because it gives you that opportunity to look back. And as BAs, I find that we often keep on looking forward to all of the things that we still have to do or should be doing or should be done. And we neglect looking back and being proud of what we, together with our team, have accomplished. So I guess those fun moments where you actually do that are the ones that I remember strongly, and I would advise everyone to plan more of these moments.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would agree. When we went to Agile, we made it a point that every time we would have planning, then we would go out to one of the nearby restaurants for dinner that night, and then also we would always have something to celebrate the closing of it, especially a major project. And I think that makes a big difference, We even would have a bonfire to burn all the sticky notes.
That's a wonderful idea.
Somebody had a farm, and so we could do that safely. But one day it was a little windy in the wrong direction. I was like, oh man, not getting too close, But, yeah, no, you're right. You do have to have fun. And I think sometimes people take themselves too seriously. And as you know, I don't take things very seriously. So you got to laugh. You have to laugh. And I've always felt that FAIL really just stands for first attempt in learning. Because if you learn something from it, that's really good. Some people couldn't, they didn't make the transition from waterfall very good to where things were so rigid. And they always thought, oh, now if you, mess up every project you touch, that's a different story. But, I just always felt that was so important to have fun because everybody spends so much time at work and so much effort and things.
On that comment you make about mistakes and learning, I'm doing a talk. I'm in the British Army Reserves and have been for about 34 years.
Yes.
And we talk about, you have to encourage thinking, people to be able to think. And on the battlefield, we talk about on the battlefield. And what we say is no plan survives. It's a well-known saying. No plan survives the first contact with the enemy. So people have to make the mistakes. We have to create that environment where people can make mistakes, and we need to tolerate that mistake, those mistakes for people to learn. And as we all have here, I've made plenty, plenty, and that's an important message to give as a leader. I think that we've made plenty. So as long as you learn from them and don't keep repeating them, I suppose
that's the key. And I still remember a couple that were huge. I didn't make many little small detail mistakes, but when I made one, it was talked about probably for a while. But, I just owned up to it and said, okay, let's, what do I need to do? And we'll get this corrected. You can't hide from it. That's for sure. But yeah, that's just so important. Because everything, you can plan everything, but as you said, the minute the battle starts, it's all different. And, you have to switch directions. That's probably what I find the most interesting thing about business analysis is everything changes daily, and you never know, what's going to happen. You can write up a to-do list, but you're always happy if you get through a couple things that day because no day goes as planned. That's for sure. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. And how has being an IIBA member enhanced your career?
So for me, it helped me in two ways. As a business analyst, it gave me global connections. It really made me understand and experience that I was part of a very large community of helpful people and supportive people. There is so much happening. As you just mentioned, things are changing so rapidly. We can't stay up to date with everything. With all the new technology, all the new BA viewpoints that we need to take into account, the fact that we need to also be sometimes project manager and change manager and whatnot. It's good, it's important to know about all of these things, but you can't be a specialist in all of them. But by being part of the community, you are in touch with people that can help you out at any point in time. If I have a question about something, I know I can just send a text message or a LinkedIn message and I will have answers within minutes. And that's key thing, those connections, that collaboration, those additional perspectives is a key thing that being part of the IIBA community has brought me. Yep. And it's also related to what Ian just mentioned about offering a safe place, providing a safe place for people to share their concerns and the challenges they have. That's also what this community is offering. I can always talk to someone with challenges that I experience in my work. So that's definitely one thing. Another thing which is more related to my career as a speaker, as a workshop facilitator, is the fact that I can travel globally to meet people, to come to new places, which combines like a hobby, traveling and experiencing new cultures, with work, the fun part of work. And so that's definitely something that was intensified through being an IIBA member and through becoming an IIBA volunteer.
I would.
So,
Ian,
so for
what
me,
about you?
Yeah, so for me, I've never been a volunteer for the IIBA, but I've been a member since I can remember. And it's given me, obviously, I've got the CBAP, so a lot of learning material. It's also given me, it gave me my first time that I spoke. I spoke at an event, and that was quite a nervy affair. But it was, it was in somewhere in Bristol, in Clifton, and I kind of I've talked many times since, so it was the first of many.
Yeah.
So that was good. But for me, it's the energy that it brings, that the collective brings. And as I work for a company called Peregrine, and we host events, and we've hosted 2 this year, one in London and one in Manchester. And we've got a room of 50 people, from different organizations talking, that energy, they're all passionate, and that energy stays with you and takes a long way to, long time to dispel, and it keeps you passionate about business analysis. And we have a UK chapter for IIBA, and they've got great volunteers who do a lot of great work, and where I can support them, I will, because I really value what they do.
Yes, they do have a lot of really solid people there. So one of these days I have to get to the UK, I have to get to Brussels. Maybe I need to buy lottery tickets, and then when I win, I can travel. I don't know. We'll see if that even happens. But yeah, I really, when I joined IIBA, it was really my manager pushing me. You need to go do this. Okay. Yeah. And what I wasn't expecting was the people. And that really has been the best benefit, which is you can't put a price on that. It's priceless. But that was really one of the good things about COVID, not the disease, but the fact of, getting on the BA Cafe and talking to everybody around the world and getting to know people better. Virtually, I had an opportunity that I wouldn't have had that not existed. And so as an IIBA volunteer and what I was doing for IIBA, it was important for me to get to know more people globally. And so that was a huge opportunity to do that. So, yeah, but you're right about change. And in fact, I think things are just changing, at a more rapid pace than any of us ever thought that it could happen that way. And some of the things you think about, maybe I'll write a presentation, well, you could maybe write a presentation about how Chat GPT could help business analysts in their jobs. But if I submitted an abstract today, by the time we get to something next spring, everything would have changed,
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. So now share a little bit about what you do. And I know Filip does have his own business and he teaches at the university. And I know you do have your own consulting business, right, Ian?
No, I don't.
Oh,
no.
you don't? Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
So I'm a director of business analysis for a company called Peregrine, and it's a UK-based company, and it's brand new. Yeah, in the sense that it's brand new branding. We've just been bought. Our section been bought. But as I said, we're a UK-based company, and we provide innovative recruit, train, deploy models for resourcing. So a lot of young people who want to be BAs coming out of college, and we train them, and they will then set them with one of our great set of clients that we have. And we also do senior resource as well. So BAs that have senior BAs, lead BAs, and we do PMs and all transformation resource. But I've got this wonderful job where I sit on the senior leadership team, and I'm a kind of handyman kind of approach. I do a lot of coaching, mentoring. I step in and do a bit of training. I'll work with the recruiting teams. I will also work with sales, do some knowledge transfer. I'll do a lot of transformation, especially around data, and I'll assist the MD with where the direction that they're taking it. So we haven't got an army of dedicated transformational professionals within the business. They're all up with clients, so it's kind of on me, and it's good. It's good to have that buy-in to a smaller company where we can work out strategy and then execute that.
That's a good point. I worked a lot on transformation the last part of my career, but I worked for a large company, and we all know how that goes sometimes. They've made progress. So Philip, what about you?
So I am self-employed, and up until a few years ago, I did a lot of project work as a consultant. That has decreased, and I'm focusing much more on training, coaching, public speaking, writing every now and then, and as you say, teaching also as a guest lecturer at one of the universities in Belgium. And in my work, I focus on two things. One is strategic business analysis. I think that every BA, wherever you are working, you need to be aware of the strategy and how your work fits in. And I try to bring that lens. And the other part of the work I do is innovation, doing new things. Most of the work we do, 99.9% of the work we do, is about changing things in some way, small or big. And so bringing innovation practices, lean startup practices into all of the BA work and the project work we are doing. That's kind of the second focus that I have in my work. So if anyone wants to chat about the strategic side of things, or has a crazy idea and wants to have me as a soundboard, get in touch, because I love crazy ideas that sound impossible. Because I don't think impossible exists. It's a word that is not in my dictionary.
Yes, innovation and change is very, I find it very attractive too. Some people get so nervous and upset about it, but if you're not uncomfortable, I don't feel you're learning. You have to really get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Just to sit there and put widget A into widget B or something, that would just be too boring. Is how I feel about it. So yes. Yeah. Well, it has really been good to sit down and talk to both of you. I learned some things I didn't know about both of you. And so that's exciting. And hopefully the people who will be watching this very shortly will learn some things too. And of course, I could sit and talk about business analysis all day, as I'm sure both of you could, but I'm sure we have something else we need to be doing. And so this is the end of another episode of the Optimistic Bites, and this will be on YouTube, and I will post it in the regular social media places, basically LinkedIn and Facebook. And so I'll tag both of you so you see when I do the blog, and you can share the recording and comment. And maybe it'll help you with something. I don't know. Maybe a good laugh. So anyway, both of you have a good day, and till next time.
Thanks for the invitation, Judy.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Judy.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.